Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Friday night Q&A for our shorts block, Crush or Be Crushed. Before we start, we just want to say a big thank you to our community partners at the Japanese American Citizens League and Japanese Americans, Japanese in America for this program. These shorts are presented to you by AIF as a program of love stories in every sense of the word. And for those of you tuning in who haven't gotten a chance yet to see these films that we'll talk about today, you'll find that when you watch them, they traverse through history, through love and romance across many, many different shapes and forms. And above all, they're stories of connection. So I'm so excited to welcome our filmmakers from 3 of our shorts in this program today. I loved your films, and I'm so excited to be talking about COBY and Steven Are in Love, Supersonic, and Wednesdays. Audience members who are watching through our Twitch and Facebook live streams, please feel free to send any questions you have for our filmmakers into the chat throughout this discussion. We'll be monitoring it throughout this Q&A and answering some of our chosen audience questions towards the end of this Q&A. So filmmakers, welcome. So excited to be talking to you. Could we go around and if you could just give a quick introduction about yourselves, who you are, about your work, your role on your films, respectively, and anything else you'd like to share. Maybe we could start with the Wednesdays team.
Yeah, hi, I am Julie, Jung, Jang, writer and director of the film Wednesdays.
Yeah, hi, I'm Hae Seoung Kim. I produced and co-directed Wednesdays. Thank you so much for having me here.
And then COBY and Steven Are in Love.
Hi everyone, my name is Luka Yuanyuan. I'm calling from China. I'm the co-director and producer of COBY and Steven Are in Love. Sadly, it's only me joining the team today. Like my partner Carlo Nasir couldn't join this session, unfortunately. But I'm really here. I'm really happy to be here, like to share with everyone. Yeah.
And Supersonic.
Hello, my name is Saleem, and I'm the director of Supersonic.
Hello, I'm DaMonique, and I'm calling in from New York, and I acted in Supersonic alongside Saleem.
Great. So wonderful to see you all. We'll start with some pretty simple questions. I'm sure that all of us would love to hear how each of you came to make the film that you made and to tell the story or share the story that you did. We can start with whoever.
I guess we can start. So Supersonic is a short film, and it's I wrote and directed it, and it's based off of my experience being hearing impaired. Being hard of hearing. I've been hard of hearing for most of my life, and it really shaped me in the way I interact with people. And it was something that I was not confident about. I kind of hid it for most of my life. But then recently, I just felt like this was something that was a unique experience that I didn't see on screen. And there's something about movies that you can show somebody's sonic perspective as well as their visual perspective. So there just seemed like a great opportunity to share my point of view through the short, but also start a larger conversation about connection and what does listening really mean. And I'll let DaMonique say how she got involved.
You also starred in it, just want to say that too, just faith. But so ironic, or not ironically, but I had just moved back to New York and had heard about an audition for Supersonic, and I showed up, and I think one thing that really struck me about it was it called for like dancing or choreographing a part, which I completely misunderstood the directions, I think. I think there was dialogue for the audition slides, but I thought I was supposed to choreograph to the dialogue of that audition slide. So I'm pretty sure that's what I did. But honestly, that's kind of the first thing that drew me into it, right? It was calling for something more than just connecting through dialogue, through words. It was like, how are you going to use your body to create a relationship with someone? And that was the first thing that drew me to this piece, and to the film in general. And it was just an amazing journey.
Should we
Right,
start?
maybe I could.
Oh, okay,
Sure.
you can go.
You guys go first. You guys go first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Wednesdays is a short film that talks about victims of sexual slaves of Japanese imperialism, and they are always fighting as human rights activists for justice. It's been for
28 years.
yeah, 28 years. They were doing the protest for 28 years, and it's really an really unfortunate story for them, and they are still out there, and they feel really not they are in pain because all the abuse they got from the war, and yeah, and I just genuinely just wanted to help them to spread the story, because one of the victims' goal was to just go around the world and talk to people about this story and just spread the news.
Yeah. And she was making a short documentary about the theme, about the subject, and I was studying narrative film. So we thought that it'll be great collaboration to make a short narrative film together. That's the start. We made a film. Yeah.
Okay, so with COBY and Stephen Are in Love, it's a short documentary film about a love story between a 92-year-old retired nightclub dancer, COBY, and her partner, Stephen Kim, who used to be an experimental filmmaker and who's 20 years younger than COBY. And they met each other at the age when COBY was 70-year-old. They met because of dancing, and then they fell in love because of dancing. And this whole thing started in 2018. So I came from China. I was in New York for a residency program as a visual artist. And I was doing research relating to 20th century Chinese American audiovisual history. So I was trying to find dancers, nightclub dancers. I was trying to find film actors who are still alive this day, like who experienced those days, those themes. And then I found COBY. And actually, I didn't know I was going to make a film, but then I started to think about the idea of a feature-length documentary relating to this whole group of women. And it was during that process, Carlo joined the team as a cinematographer, and we went to Havana, and I organized a performance and featured a group of dancers. And it was during those journey, we realized, okay, we want to make a separate short story of COBY and Stephen. So that's how it started. Yeah, and then we completed the film in 2019.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing. I really loved hearing about, how with all of these films, you have such strong personal connection to the topic that you're talking about and the stories that you're telling. And I also really love that, especially Saleem and DaMonique, like to hear that it was such a collaborative process what sounds like such a collaborative process in choreographing the beautiful dancing that's in the film that communicates so much of the relationship and the connection in the story. And since we have two pairs of directing teams and you two working so closely together as actors and choreographing the film together, I would just love to hear a little bit more from everyone about what the collaborative process has been like. How did you find your co-collaborators? We've heard a little bit about it, but also kind of how did you navigate that in the process of telling this story?
Yeah, for Supersonic, collaboration was key because I was the actor. I have longer hair now, so you might not recognize me, but that was me. And
Wow.
it's a lot to act and direct at the same time. I don't think it would have been possible if it weren't for the team. There was like a lot of trust, I feel like, between the people behind the camera and in front of the camera. And I mean, I actually don't know what it was like for DaMonique, but I was trying as a director and actor, I was trying to focus on my character first and foremost, while trying to see the other actors in relationship to the story, like trying to be both subjective and objective at the same time. And again, I don't think it would have been possible if it wasn't for DaMonique, contribution in rehearsals. We spent a lot of time rehearsing that dance scene. And, I feel like when she came into the audition, she kind of already had the spirit of the character. And the rehearsals, it's kind of a great thing as a director, casting, they say, is most of your job as a director. So I felt like the audition process was almost like the first rehearsal, and then we just kind of built from what she brought from there.
Wow. It was definitely super collaborative. I echo everything Saleem just said. And it's interesting to hear you talk about how you're being both subjective and objective, because in the rehearsal room, especially when it was just you and I, either choreographing or going over lines and blocking, like you always seemed so present and just like aware of what I either needed or what I was trying to do or wasn't like quite getting at. And you would always ask questions, like you would notice like very small things that I was trying to get at or ask me about my backstory. So I think you as a director, and then even Corinne, the AD, like everybody contributed and created such a safe space to explore that it wasn't like we had to come in knowing everything. Like we could fail something and then be like, this isn't gonna work. Oh, okay, this is okay. So in terms of that collaboration, and then even I'm thinking on the night where we were at the lake one time and we were all freezing our butts off, right? But like even the collaboration of like making sure that we were each warm, or like we had hand warmers and stuff, like everybody on the team just created an atmosphere where we knew we were going to take care of each other. Like each of us were just completely invested wholeheartedly in this film and Saleem's vision. So it was just great.
That's wonderful. And the dance scenes too was something that you two worked on together in the shooting of the film.
Yep, we had many rehearsals.
It was definitely a lot. It was really fun though too. I can't remember how, like what happened. I think we were just mirroring each other. I don't know if you were doing like a Bhangra type dance, if that's correct. And then all of a sudden I started to do something and we're like, oh, this language is working? Okay.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like to hear the process, like didn't realize like a lot of it is like impromptu. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Luka, for you, how, did you and Carlo find each other as co-creators and come to this documentary together? And what was that process of working together like for you two?
As I mentioned earlier, I'm really like a first-time filmmaker. My background is visual art, so it was in 2018 after I realized, oh, it can't be a multimedia art per se. It has to be a film. I realized, damn, I need to learn about, film industry and all this. I need to find partners, and thanks to Union Docs, so I was there for their August film lab, and that's where I met Carlo. And Carlo was like, well, I think you need a DP since you're doing this shooting, important shooting in Havana in 2 weeks. I think, if you like, I would love to join the team. So that's how it all started. But then when we were in Havana, it was really because I invited around 16 Chinese Americans from San Francisco uh, for a performance in Cuba. But everybody showed up eventually. I guess everybody wanted like a special trip to Havana. So there was a lot of luck. Can you imagine 17 American and one Chinese working Havana together? And we had this amazing experience. And it was in those evenings, COBY and Stephen, can you imagine, like a 92-year-old and a 74-year-old, every evening they want to search for nightclubs for dancing in Havana. And me and Carlo, we were just like, oh, of course, we can't allow them to go on their own. So we told the other ladies, just take care of yourself, please. We gotta go with this too. And it was during those nights we had a lot of like amazing dancing experience and laughters and all this, and then it just really felt naturally that this whole I told Carlo, hey, do you think this too, like we should make a separate short about this too? And he was like, I was thinking exactly the same thing. So that's how it started. Yeah. And then after we got back to the States, I supposed to go back to China within a month's time. So within that month, I changed all my plans. We just traveled to San Francisco. We did the major shooting in that 1 month. It really felt like a process of like four of us dancing together in a way. Like the whole process of making this film. It's like Steve and COBY, they're such two different persons. They have totally different personalities. Like one is like Stephen wears his heart on the sleeves, and COBY is more like she's more like this. How can I describe? Like she's so tiny. She's like this tiny, unique dancing queen, and they're so different, but they're like this great dancing partner. And me and Carlo, we are very different, but we're like a good film partner. So yeah, it felt really natural, the whole process.
That's so awesome to hear. And there's so much connection happening through dance that I feel like I need to go and like learn, take dancing lessons or something. What about for the team of Wednesdays? I loved hearing that the two of you kind of found each other through Julie, you making a documentary, and then Hae Seoung, you bringing your more narrative film experience to it. So could you talk a little bit about, how you got together, connected through that, and what was it like to turn kind of the research that Julie was doing in uplifting these voices and this history into a more narrative film?
Yeah, we basically go to the same school. We are both directors. We take same classes. And yeah, as Hae Seoung mentioned earlier, I make documentaries and she makes narrative films. And I knew she was such a great filmmaker as for narrative films, and I just wanted to make this documentary for as a narrative version. And I knew I needed help because I am not used to making narrative ones. And so yeah, I just asked her, and she was happy about it, very fortunately. And so and I so as when I was in first year, I started making documentaries about this issue, and I always was so interested in human rights and women's rights. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to make this topic into films because I knew this is a story that is worth telling, and yeah, and she recruited so many people on set, which was really helpful.
Yeah. 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 I went to the showcase. It was a documentary showcase in school, and I watched whole documentary. And she was very passionate about the theme, the subject. It was very, very impressed for me. And so when she asked me to make a narrative film together, it was an honor for me. But it was not easy to make a film in Korea because I hadn't ever made a film in Korea before, so I need to find crew members, and everything is was new. So yeah, it was not easy, but all of our crew members were willing to participate in our project. So it was such a beautiful moment. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And what was the process of writing this short for you? Because it started as a documentary. So how did you find the story of the woman and her romance and history that became the center of Wednesdays from there?
So there is a victim called Seoung Kim. She is the victim that I mentioned earlier. She is the one who goes around the world and puts this statue to commemorate the victims and make the people remember this tragic history. So the girl in this film is called Dongbok, which is just Bokdong Dongbok. It's I was inspired by the victim because she passed away
Last year again.
last year or the year, it was the year before when I started to write, and I imagined her as a little girl who had to be kidnapped by these soldiers of Japanese army people, and and me and Hae Seoung both thought that this shouldn't be political at all. We just wanted to project them, no, not project them, just portray them as people who lost their chance to have a normal life as just have as teenagers.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I had another question, Luka, for COBY and Steven Are in Love, which is that, a really significant part of watching the documentary for me was how you included yourselves, you and Carlo both just allowing yourselves to be seen and heard a little bit on camera. And then there's that great moment where Steven, takes out his camera and starts filming you, and we see that. And there's, for documentary, it's such a choice when filmmakers do that. And it's so indicative to me of how close this connection was between the four of you, which I really love to hear about. But could you talk a little bit more about making that decision? Was that something you guys were certain you were going to do? Was we're going to be present in this film in this little way? Or, how did you arrive at that decision, and what does it mean for you?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, this whole process of filmmaking seems just really natural. It really felt like, for us, like we're doing a land dance together. We were thinking maybe we should have a line dancing thing at the credits moment. We were joking, saying maybe we should have that. But eventually, it wasn't included. But I think there's actually another thing. I don't know if you still remember. We were on the car, and Stephen was saying, COBY said, "I never ordered pizza in my life," and Stephen says, "You call yourself American." And COBY was like, "Well, I'm Chinese American. First, I'm Chinese." Stephen was like, "No, I think you're first American, but you're becoming more Chinese now." And she's like, "One is here." And when she pronounced my name, COBY can never pronounce my name correctly. My name is Yuanyuan. She always call me like Juan, like almost like Mexican name Juan, It's, I think that's actually, to me, that's another important thing of, us as filmmaker being present in this film. It has a very crucial reason because there's some kind of mirroring or I think making documentary is always, it's a group activity together about the director just using the camera and facing the people they're filming. There's always this conversation like going on, even though the director is in silence. So I think particularly for this film, like our presence, like definitely changed their how to say, their natural daily life, and we just let it being present in it, we decide. And I think that's reflexive filmmaking shots of, I think it's because in a way, Stephen always wanted to be a filmmaker. In the film you saw, like, he made film in the 1970s, and then he's always this documentarian, an archivist of their life. He kept all the photos. He did collage. He cut COBY's photo and put her on the mountaintop, and that just represents their love story, how different they are. But he used collage and image making to put them together. I think we both think, me and Carlo, we think it's almost just like the process of making editing of the film. It's COBY making sewing, Stephen making image, and we are cutting all these things together. And in another way, we really hope making this film is not helping, how to say it? It's like making a film with Stephen together, in a way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's some of the reasons why we decided to have it. Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. And also, speaking of kind of Stephen as a filmmaker, we get to see a little bit of his own filmmaking too, in COBY and Stephen, and even with just the font of your film matching all of that font that he uses in his own films. Was that something you discovered much later in the process? Like, was there ever a moment where Stephen showed you these things that he made, and it was a moment where you decided, oh, like this needs to be in our documentary? Like, I guess, how did that naturally come about, just the inclusion of his films?
In fact, when I first met COBY and Stephen, like, no, actually, the first time when I went to their house, around that time, Carlo wasn't in the team yet. I was still just doing interviewing, and I met COBY, and then later on, when I arrived their home, all of a sudden I know all this about Stephen. He was like, "Oh, do you want to see the collage I made? Actually, I was making films about COBY, and you can know more about COBY through those films." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I think the collage that I mentioned, it was actually the first time I thought about, wait, this is just like their love story, because he loves hiking, she hates hiking. He always liked to just dance indoor, and Stephen, he wasn't wearing, he wasn't, care much about his dressing up before he became lover with COBY. So they really changed each other's lives, and you can see those from those collage. And with his film, you see like he was like in a totally different style. Like, he was making film. Like, but after he was with COBY, he started to shoot more dancing videos, and he was more like into like documentary style filmmaking. It's really interesting how they change each other. Yeah. And yes, the font. The font is, he used all the same fonts for all of his films. Yeah, we were like, it was just a natural decision. We're like, of course, we definitely want to use his songs. Yeah.
For Supersonic, Saleem and DaMonique, I would love to talk about the use of sound in the film. Obviously, it is the most unique, important part of the storytelling in making the world of Supersonic and the interior world of the main characters come to life. So I would love to hear you talk about, and the music too, the song that you danced to. How did you find that? How did you land on that? And then what was the process like of working with sound editing? Because I know that there must be a world of things that you considered in making that happen.
Well, DaMonique, would you like to share the process of working with that song? Because it's a different song that we work with that's actually in the film.
Yeah, I remember. Weren't we using for the rehearsals? We were using a Frank Ocean song.
Mm-hmm.
But then like I want to say fertilizer. It's not called fertilizer.
Provider.
Provider. Don't ask me. It was stuck in my head for such a long time that I think I tried to block it out for a little bit. But yeah, that was a completely different song. I just remember always dancing to that. But I'm not sure. Like, I have to bounce back to you in terms of how we got the original one that's in the film.
Yeah, it was a long process where initially I was working with a composer who was going to make a song that matched the Frank Ocean song Provider in terms of rhythm. It ended up not working out that way, and I was sort of panicking. I was like, I don't know any songs that are as good as Provider by Frank Ocean. So I was really racking my brain trying to figure out what we would do. And the song that we have in the film is one of my friends. They're a band called Mad Lovely. They're a duo. It's Malika Dave and Adam Byrne. They're based in New York. They have a lot of R&B and hip hop influences, but they're very slow. They're very I don't know, I don't know what the right term is, but like the tempo is very slow, and it perfectly matched what we had for Provider. So I brought the track. My friends at Mad Lovely, they agreed to let us use the song. Then I brought the song to the sound designer, Brandon Valentin, and he's also a musician himself. So he took the song and he was creating a whole sonic soundscape for the film. The film has the same sound as somebody who wears my hearing aids. He actually like wore my hearing aid for a bit just to understand what it sounds like, and then he incorporated it in the editing. But the thing is, with that song, for most of the tempo, it worked perfectly. But for that ending section where DaMonique's character and my character are they're connecting and they're dancing together, we were moving at a different tempo than what the song was. So like it wasn't working. And I was getting very nervous. I was like, what are we gonna do? We didn't have any original composer working on like an entire score. And we were on a deadline. So Brandon, he was really a champ. He remixed the song and he created a new version of it that is you can tell the song speeds up at the end. Like he created that, and we spent a lot of nights in the mix room, like trying it a bunch of different ways. But yeah, it was a process. It was not all there at the beginning. But I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. can I add on to that too, but from a different perspective? Because Saleem, you had brought up how Brandon wore your hearing aids for a while, and that's how like he created the soundscape, which I didn't even know. But I feel like that speaks a lot to even just Samar's character, the character whom I play, right? Because from her experience, she doesn't know or understand like what Saleem's character Wahed is going through at all. And I feel like there's like the film creates, especially through its sonic and through its sound, like the film creates this opportunity for the audience to encounter and experience something that's not familiar to them, and choose how we're going to respond to it. Choose if we're going to lean in more and like be invested in this story and this narrative, or be like, I'm not feeling this. So I love that decision and that you all came up with. It was just really great.
Yeah, wow, thank you. I think, yeah, that is like the core of it, of like empathy, that there's that feeling of isolation we have where we think if somebody's not going to understand us, we won't even bother opening up. And I think that at the climax where Samar and Wahed are at the diner, and he tells her, "Oh, I have hearing aids. That's why I'm acting weird." Like, she could just kind of go along with this. It's like, okay, this is weird, so maybe this is just not going to work out. And she doesn't. Oh, whoa, I shouldn't say that. People have to watch the movie first. You have to watch the movie to find out what happened.
So it's fascinating to me that, you know, the song that you shot with was not the song that we experience in the actual movie. And I think that's oftentimes, like, it is so challenging to, you know, be so connected to a piece of music or something, and because of whatever reason not be able to use it and have to picture it with something else. And I'm just wondering, DaMonique, like, what was the experience like of seeing that scene with a different song for the first time? Because I'm sure it must have felt so different.
It definitely did, especially because, like I said, I have a provider in my head for so long, but it's still like the entire scene. I think both the sound, the light, like there are things happening that I wasn't even aware of when we were filming it. So seeing it, like, it was a multisensory experience that just surprised me in the best of ways. And if anything, it just really spoke to, I think, Saleem's vision for that scene in general. So while the song itself was different, I think it was less for me recognizing if the song was different or not, and more about like, oh wow, like it's not even about the sound, like it's actually them creating a whole conversation between their dance movements. Like all of a sudden the sound definitely kind of maybe in a conversation that may be the theme of the conversation, right? But then we just kind of take it into a whole nother world. And yeah, so it was surprising and shocking because of multiple experiences, but ultimately it spoke to just really the connection that Saleem envisioned for that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a question from an audience member, which is for all of the filmmakers. What were the challenges, the biggest challenges that you faced in making specifically a short film? So, you know, I know, Luka, you probably spent so much time capturing all this different footage with COBY and Steven. For all of you telling such meaningful and stories with so many different themes and relationships happening in such a short amount of time, in like a few minutes of space. What were the challenges of creating that structure?
One of you want to go first? I guess I could just start. I think for us, we were really lucky because the short was a good amount of time for the story. The very simple story of like just being open when you first meet somebody, and had like the perfect amount of drama for a short film. I think the hardest thing was that the original cut of the film was like 20 minutes, and it was not that interesting. After a certain point, like it felt too long. So it was the hardest thing was finding out how to cut it down to the length that it's now, 14 minutes. Because there is that thing about the short, like it can be too long if you are not, using the form the right way.
I think with us, there were quite a lot of challenges because for me, as I said, I wasn't making films before, but then after realizing wanting to make this film, and because of COBY's age, I just felt the urge, like I have to be back to the US as soon as possible to keep on shooting, and I didn't be able to apply for any funding. Just have to, okay, I gotta make this happen no matter what. So use my own savings, like be able to finish the rest of the film. But then we had this issue relating to the music copyright. There was this really important song that we really wanted to use, but eventually we have to give it up because it's Frank Sinatra. Although it's really important for them, but it's something we couldn't afford for a short like this. And another challenge was, as I said, I was in the process of making a feature documentary, and COBY is one of the main characters. And there's another group of women who's also the character for that feature. So many of the shooting has to happen like when we're making the feature at the same time making the short. So and Carlo is like cinematographer of that film and co-director of this film. So but like the good thing is like we really understand each other, and I think there is this great vibe among everybody, like all the everyone we were filming and this whole team, and it went smoothly eventually. And now the feature is in post-production. So yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see it. I'm sure we all will keep our eye out. What about for the team of Wednesdays for you guys? Again, like we alternate between past and present, so I'm sure there were a lot of challenges in like putting all of that and packaging all of that into a short.
Yeah. Do you want to go or should I?
You go for it. You can
Okay.
go first.
So yeah, it's a so the little girl and a boy is from like 1920s. So we needed to find places like old but not too old. Like, it wasn't yeah, so but it would be a lie if I say it wasn't challenging at all. But when it eventually turned out, like, because I am so satisfied with our film, I forgot about our challenges. So yeah, it is definitely really difficult to film short film or any films. We have problem with so many things, finding places, finding fundings, and finding people on set, finding actors. We started from zero, and so yeah, we're just students, just two film students. So it was very challenging, but as we watched our final thing, yeah, it was just great.
Yeah, we were happy. We are really happy with our final draft, and yeah, filming Wednesdays is not easy. It was really not easy, because yeah, and one of the biggest challenges was budgeting. It's not easy, We did a crowdfunded. Finally, we got about 100 crowdfunders. So it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was really lucky.
Yeah, and it was very helpful. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since we're approaching the end of our Q&A, I wanted to end on another audience question that I think is pretty great for this time, which is, as filmmakers and as artists, how are you guys keeping creative while in quarantine? Or just, surviving at home wherever you are.
Honestly, keeping creative is not easy at any time. I think my inspiration just comes in last minute, like just before filming. I'm still writing, But these days I just try to watch movies and, try to read books indoor, stay indoor, and, just try to, watch things you really wanted to watch always. Like, yeah, nothing much really.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's a time for like slowing down a little bit, read and watch films and reflect on ourselves, I guess. And with me, I guess a lot of plans have to be changed because COVID, like I couldn't travel back to the US because originally the feature length, we were thinking the post-production could happen in the States, but now like everything is happening in China. Luckily, like finally be able to working with two producers here. And so I guess since now we're working on the post and we don't really have to go out for shooting again, and that makes it a lot more easier. And other times, yeah, doing the same thing, like reading and watching films that always wanted to watch but didn't have time before. Yeah. Yes. We all need to adjust to the new.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to add to what everyone else is saying, I feel like right now I can do more writing than I used to, and I feel less afraid of what I want to write about, the story, and how deep I want to explore the characters and the topic, because there's really no guarantee or no certainty. There's no market the way that there usually is. So I feel like I've been pushing myself to just go even deeper into the stories I want to write.
Yeah, that actually really resonates. It's funny because I was praying with a friend and she was like, yeah, like DaMonique, you're going to start writing plays and stuff like that. But it's like, it's no longer about all the guides. It's no longer about like these expectations that you had as a creator before all this time. Like you're going to do something new. So she was encouraging me in that way. I feel like I've recently come to starting to write again, where I'm like being honest again and no longer trying to like build up towards my favorite playwright or, trying to imitate some other writer that I've seen or imitate a story that I completely love, but like really trying to get in tune with who I am as a writer, who I am as an artist, and even as an actress in that way too, to just like solidify my identity within this work.
I was supposed to film another short film in in September, but I had to postpone it because the COVID was spreading again around at the time. So I'm trying to build up the script better because I got more time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for sharing. It definitely is a time for reflection and for watching films. And great segue into telling all our viewers who are tuning into this Q&A, if you want to watch these three beautiful, beautiful films and three other films that are also in this same block of Crush or Be Crushed love stories, you can go to the link that is pinned to the top of your Facebook and Twitch live stream chats, or go to the AIF website and get tickets to see the shorts, which will be available throughout the festival. But thank you all so much for speaking about your films. It was so wonderful to hear you all talk more about your work. And we'll see you all again. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.